Not every speaking opportunity is your speaking opportunity, but the right ones can help you build your collaboration ecosystem. And ultimately, it becomes a ripple effect in your business. It's way more than the transaction. But let's explore, is this the right opportunity for you? You are listening to Amplify Your Success podcast, episode 479. And today, I want to help you understand the factors to look at if a speaking opportunity is your speaking opportunity, so you're not wasting time and energy. You ready for this? Let's get started. Welcome to the Amplify Your Success podcast. Get ready to ramp up your revenue, amplify your impact, and make your mark in the world. This is the show for experts, thought leaders, and service professionals who want to shatter their limits and achieve that next level. You're going to find out from other experts and influencers how they made it. Now, let's get amplified. Hey there, inspired entrepreneurs and business leaders. It's your host, Melanie Benson, authority amplifier and founder of the Rising Tide Collective. Today, we're going to do the third in a mini series I'm doing on making good decisions. And one of the areas that I see a lot of questions coming in through the Rising Tide Collective, through my authority activator clients and accelerator clients is, okay, Melanie, like I've got all these great opportunities coming in. How do I know which ones are aligned? As a matter of fact, I was just having a conversation in the DMs with somebody who was talking about they were struggling with, not really feeling like the right opportunities were getting on their calendar. So I think it's worth really understanding that not every opportunity is your opportunity. FOMO kicks in. It's really easy to get caught up and go, oh, I don't want to miss out on something. But then I see it over and over again. It's happened for me where you are in it and you're like, oh, this is not what I want to give my time and energy to. This is not really feeling good anymore. I really like to use criteria and factors. And I think if you go back in the series, and we'll link these up in the show notes, and you look at just the basic vetting criteria of a good decision, this is going to help a lot. But I want to go a little bit deeper into what happens when you start to be seen in your leadership, like your authority is owned and you are commanding attention. You're going to get a lot of opportunities. The more visible you are, the more opportunities are going to come your way because you're in momentum. And we want that, but we also need to really build and deepen the decision making so that you're saying yes to the excellent opportunities, and you may be actually saying no to good opportunities because you need to keep the room for the ones that move the needle, but not just getting caught up in like, what's this going to do for my business now, but really looking at the trajectory of the opportunities. So let's talk about what all is involved. Now, first of all, I think it's important to recognize that as an expert, when you say yes to a stage or a podcast interview or a virtual event that looks good but doesn't move you forward the way you want to be propelled forward, it can fragment your energy. And worse, as we've talked about before, it can actually it can kind of destroy and derail the brand positioning that you're building. And ultimately, we don't want to be filling our email community and building up momentum with people that aren't really our people, right? Like this is about attracting more of the right clients, establishing strong collaborations. And so there has to be some selectiveness involved here. It feels really good when the momentum kicks in and you start getting new opportunities, but that doesn't mean you should say yes to all opportunities. And there is a time where you're going to say yes to more because you're in major build mode. But once you hit a level where you're maybe maintaining or you're being more selective, you're honing your message even more, you're being very selective about what gets your time and attention, you're going to need this more than ever. So let's look at what is the real goal of speaking. Speaking is an opportunity to get your message in front of new audiences. It's about building and positioning your expertise and authority, and maybe even establishing who you are as a leader in your industry. The strategic proximity of speaking in person or online or on a podcast is gold. This is what I think of as like growth fuel. And there is momentum that happens beyond the moments you're on the microphone. This is a big part of what I teach in the Visibility Velocity event, which I do every March and is coming up soon. So actually, we'll link that up in the show notes for you as well. Now, what it's not is this is not a transaction. This is not a visibility grab. Like sometimes I think people don't understand that when you are one of the speakers at an event, you are being given an exclusive opportunity to collaborate, to create an extraordinary event with the host. And if you just go into it looking at like, oh, great, well, we can pick up some more followers or we can grow our email list. This is such short-term focus. Yes, those things should occur. But stopping at that level of the collaboration opportunity is short-circuiting the total power of what's possible. So I look at 3 key factors when I'm evaluating speaking opportunities for myself or for my clients. And ultimately, the most important factor over everything else, this has to be evaluated first, is audience alignment. It's not about the size of the audience as much as it's the alignment of the audience. So a lot of people start with like, okay, so how many people are going to be in the room, or how many people is this marketing going to reach? And they're looking at the numbers versus the congruence. And I think that's a missed opportunity. Now, I think as you get more established, your time becomes more precious, your leadership is more well-known. Yes, you may need to evaluate the size of the reach, but I wouldn't let that be the only condition that gets your yes. And when you are looking at smaller audiences, the cultivation of a good audience is really the secret. So you want to be asking, how are they building the audience? Who else is contributing to growing the audience for this event? How well will these people know the speakers, right? Like there's so many things about audience alignment that to allow you to go deeper. Are these people buyers? Are they a cold audience? I'm not gonna say I made a mistake, but I learned a really, really powerful lesson when I did a speaking tour in Australia many years ago. And I was so flattered to be given the invitation. It was a huge win for me. It was a big authority and credibility boost. Several of the other factors were there. But what I didn't know and I didn't think to ask about was, how was the audience being curated? It was a cold audience. At that time, like this was 15 years ago, they were running ads and these people had zero idea about the speakers or really what the theme of the event was. There was no relationship with the host, and that really has a huge impact on the energy that audience has for the offers being made or whatever those next steps are, right? So these are things that as you develop more and more of your own criteria, you want to think about what is happening with the audience and how well are they positioned to value what I'm bringing into the room. One of my secret sauce questions, if you will, is how well does this audience already know about the importance of borrowing other people's audiences to build their authority and grow their reach? And if they've never heard about it before, I may say no. So alignment's really important here. And misalignment can oftentimes erode your confidence, cause you to feel like you have to over-explain your value, and it really becomes like a ROI waster instead of an ROI booster. Now talk a little bit about factor number 2, and that's how well you're going to be able to amplify your authority. And this is where it really starts to become essential to understand, well, who else is bringing their authority to this stage? Now, if it's a podcast, each episode usually stands on its own. Or you can look at the other people that have been featured, because you know that this is building a conversation inside the listener base. You're hearing from different people who have expertise or authority or whatever the theme is. But if you're at an event, everybody at that event is co-creating the room. Everybody at the event is co-creating the energy. Everybody who's speaking at the event is borrowing each other's influence and authority. So I like to think about what is the energy that's happening that's being co-created by the host and other speakers that are there. Is it strengthening mine? Is it elevating mine? Is it allowing my authority to be amplified? Now, again, at different stages of your business, it may be just a huge coup to be able to borrow the influence of more established speakers. But if you're more established and you're really in a leadership position already, is the energy and the conversation really building momentum for what you do? And here's the big one. Are your values aligned with the event, with the host, and with the brand, and with the other speakers? Now, you can't control what every other speaker is bringing to the table, but if there's definitely some standouts who you're like, they're speaking to things that I really don't feel congruent with, you might have to make some tough decisions about whether or not you want to move that forward. If you want to say yes and have your audience exposed to that information. These are the bigger decisions about amplification and what's happening in the space and what's going to happen after the space. Another thing you might want to look at is what's being offered to the audience beyond what's happening in the room. So if there are offers being made, especially by the host, does that compete? Does that complement? Does that allow for you to be able to fully optimize the work that you're doing? So not all visibility is going to enhance your positioning, and some rooms can actually kind of flatten it. It can derail it instead of elevating it. It's not just about a microphone. It's about what's going to happen before, during, and after you're on that microphone, and how you're aligning with others inside the event. So I like to look at all the different ways that my authority, my expertise, my brand is going to get traction from the show, from the stage, from the event, right? So what's important to you around that? Ask yourself, what are the factors I need to be considering in that criteria? Now, here's kind of my favorite one. And this is the potential. What is the momentum potential? What am I allowed to do that will help me build momentum after the microphone moment is over? So for podcast interviews, does that host showcase a gift? So here's what's interesting, and a lot of people don't know this because they don't research. Sometimes show hosts don't link up any of your details, and that may be okay for you. But if you need to maximize every moment, if you're really looking at what can I optimize here for my time and reach, if the listeners don't have a way to contact you, that may not necessarily be a good fit for you right now. So this factor number 3 kind of has a couple layers to it. And this first layer is, what do I want to have happen beyond the microphone? And if you're at an event, can I make an invitation of some kind? So is it an opportunity for you to offer a product or program? Oftentimes not. You're going to start with some low risk, easy to say yes to lead magnet or an easy first step. But here's where the momentum potential really has exponential growth opportunity. And that is, who else is on the stage that I might be able to have that spark of awareness. Like now they know we're on the same stage. What else could we explore together? What can I do with the host? How can I reach out and build momentum with the other speakers? See, where a lot of people short circuit their opportunity is they do what's needed to get ready for the event. They do their promotion or whatever, they pay their sponsorship fee, although that's not my model. They do the delivery of the talk. They capture whatever momentum happens from that talk with the audience, and then they're off to the next thing. And they leave behind all of the collaboration potential with the host and with other speakers. What you don't know is those other speakers may be listening to your session. Those other speakers may be your next best collaboration partners. It's a great opportunity to activate next steps. This is why I call it the $1 Million Visibility Network, is if you really understand how to build collaborations and how to activate them, every time you speak, it's not what happens from the microphone, it's what happens after. It's what you take ownership of and move forward. That's where real leadership starts to take off. It's very powerful. I watch this happen inside so many of my relationships. So many of the people actually that have joined me in Rising Tide Collective, we first met because I stayed in touch after I got off the stage, after the podcast interview was over. I think one of the things is helpful at this stage is to get really clear. If I'm going to speak, what do I need to have happen? And what do I want to have happen? Some of the things that could happen are your email list grows, you attract clients, you attract more speaking, you open up collaboration opportunities, right? You maybe even get media attention. All of these are viable when you know how to capture the opportunity and leverage it. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about this bonus factor of who else is on stage. I know that in theory we understand this, but what are you doing to leverage it? So how do you tap into other speakers, right? Well, one, especially if you're in person, sit in on their session, get to know their work. If it's virtual, sit in on their session. If you're listening to podcasts, listen to their interviews, right? You're being given a shortcut to a new collaboration partner. Second, take the first step. I teach this all the time in Rising Tide Collective. Take the first step. If you do nothing else, follow them on social media and say, hey, I saw we're both speaking. But don't just drop it there. Re-engage them. Invite them to something you're doing. Ask them if they're interested in collaborating further. Find a synergistic point and open the door. I believe that the best opportunities come from those warm connections that you take a moment to activate. This is where you get more referrals. This is where you get the repeat invitations. This is where new doors open. This is where you go from emerging on the scene to being well-known, established, recognized, referred over and over and over again. So sometimes the real opportunity isn't just the audience, it's the collaboration potential from the entire event. I have to give kudos to a really good friend of mine. You're going to see her on the stage at Visibility Velocity, Samantha Riley. One time I had mentioned to her that I had spoke at this event and I hadn't really seen the traction I was hoping for. And she mentioned to me, she said, well, sometimes the best return on investment doesn't happen from the audience. It happens from the collaborations from the other speakers in the room. I was like, oh my gosh, I know this. And I really had lost sight of the power and the momentum that's possible when you really understand the full spectrum of what's viable for you. Now, let's kind of roll this into derailers before we wrap up. Sometimes I see people making short-term decisions that short circuit the bigger opportunity because they don't see the gain in the moment. And one of them is they're looking at the size of the room, or they're looking at the maybe like the synergy with the host, or they're maybe not even recognizing that there is a value beyond the event itself. And they say no to an event that can have so much potential because they're collaborating with other people. They're collaborating with other peers, and they're getting that introduction and access to them. So really pay attention to where you may get into a form of scarcity and you focus on short-term gain, and you lose the bigger access opportunity to people that could open really powerful doors. Another couple things that's really important is don't say yes for that access and then not show up and really do your best work. So that's everything from what you deliver on the stage, in the interview, all the way through how you promote it. Now, not every event has a promotional requirement, but I got to tell you, when somebody's inviting you to their stage, when you are gracious and generous and give massive value, you are opening a door and you are cultivating a deeper connection with somebody, because trust me, they pay attention and they appreciate it. So don't say yes to gain something, but maybe leave the contribution lackluster. People will remember that, and it will short circuit your bigger opportunities. And here's the thing, the speaking community, the podcast host community, it's a small community. They talk, they share, they ask each other, who do you know? They'll kind of check in, go, hey, what do you know about so-and-so? Yeah, they don't really do a good job of promoting, right? So do good work there. A couple other things, don't be the speaker that says yes and then never follows through. Look, this is a really, really heavy opportunity. There's a lot of moving parts when you're hosting an event or when you're hosting a podcast. And if somebody's got to chase you down, trust me, it's weighing on their mind. You don't want to be the difficult one. I had a speaker who would just be so great with so many pieces, but they were so hard to get a hold of. They never responded. We always had to chase them down. And we finally just said, that energy feels really heavy. Be the person that's a delight to collaborate with, that's a great speaker and really does go above and beyond to make partnering with them easy. So I'm going to wrap up with one bonus insight, and that is, if you're getting a funky feeling in the exploration for a speaking opportunity, it's probably not going to get better. Trust your gut. If you don't understand how this is going to unfold, ask more questions. You want to give yourself the best chance to feel amazing all the way through it, not start to regret and resent what you have to do halfway through. So I hope that you have found some great insight in this episode. And if you are ready to step in and upgrade your visibility and make sure you're getting even more return on your efforting, make sure you join us at Visibility Velocity. We'll make sure all the information is linked up in the show notes. Thanks for tuning in today, Amplifier. We're going to keep this conversation going, and I want to hear from you how you're going to amplify your authority and make a greater impact. Before you go, please take a minute to give our show and our guests some love over on your favorite podcasting platform. Subscribe, rate, and review. Leave your full name, and I'll spotlight you and your authority on social media.